The Albanese government's response to these 3 Chinese ships that have been firing guns off our coast has been a total debacle. Lies are being told. Australia's been exposed also as weak and almost defenceless, led by a Prime Minister who seems clueless about how to respond to a clear threat from the Chinese dictatorship. Worse, Anthony Albanese seems astonishingly disengaged. He's playing down the disruption this Chinese task force caused and has told untruths about our Navy's response, or lack of one. China will be laughing knowing that here's the havoc caused by just 3 of its warships. You should be scared about the conclusions in our draws about our defences as it prepares for war over Taiwan. Now let me expose Albanese's spin. It's extraordinary. China sent these 3 ships to cruise from our northern coast to the seas off Hobart, coming as close as 150 nautical miles off Sydney. They've never sailed this far south in our waters. But our Defence Minister Richard Marles said, "Don't worry," he said. This was last week. He said, "We're on top of this."
We are monitoring very closely what the activities of the task group are.
And Albanese, even yesterday still, was claiming the same.
Australia has had frigates both monitoring by sea and by air of the presence in the region of these Chinese vessels.
Now already both of those statements were false or exaggerated. For one, we haven't got a frigate tailing this Chinese task force. We didn't have one spare. We got New Zealand to do it with one of theirs. 2, this supposedly, this very close watching. Well, really? Close watching? Our Defence Forces said today they're not even sure if that Chinese task force includes a submarine. Small detail. What's more, that New Zealand frigate that's keeping a close eye out for us didn't tell us on Friday that this task force had started a live fire exercise off our coast until 90 minutes later. 90 minutes. In fact, it took a Virgin Australia pilot flying from Sydney to Queenstown to first raise the alarm. 30 minutes after the Chinese started playing with their guns, nearly an hour before a New Zealand ship told our military. Now that Virgin pilot heard this warning from the Chinese, or this reported warning, according to Channel 7.
Security, security, security. This is Chinese Naval Task Force. We're conducting live fire exercise in a circle area. All vessels please keep all clear.
Okay, let's be clear about the timings here. The Virgin pilot was the first to warn our military through air safety officials what was going on.
It was in fact a Virgin Australia aircraft that advised one of our air traffic controllers that a foreign warship was broadcasting that they were conducting live firing 300 nautical miles east off our coast. So that's how we first found out about the issue.
Now that timeline was again confirmed this morning by our Defence Force Chief, Admiral David Johnson. So, even with the help of a Virgin pilot, our Defence Force did not know about the Chinese firing guns, could have been missiles for all we know, until more than half an hour after the exercise started, and when the first of 49 civilian planes were already taking evasive action, having to change flight paths in mid-air to stay out of danger. Now, by the way, that's obviously 49 planes. That is a very significant disruption. I mean, there's a danger there, especially when China gave no official warning in advance.
It is just clearly disruptive. It doesn't demonstrate the best practice that we would expect. So it sure falls short of the standard that we apply to ourselves. And in that sense, it was irresponsible.
It was actually more than irresponsible and disruptive. This was actually China being deliberately provocative. It was essentially it's bullying us. But now, see how our Prime Minister first played down the Chinese action, falsely claimed China had warned us, and then falsely claimed his government had been all over it. On Friday, Albanese insisted no aircraft had been in danger, and he actually defended the Chinese warships.
China issued, in accordance with practice, an alert that it would be conducting these activities.
False, false, false. China gave no official warning of this live fire, and even the unofficial warning to aircraft above came after the exercise had already started. So really, China gave no warning at all. And then today, Albanese contradicted his own Defence Force chief that you saw there just before in that clip by suggesting the New Zealand frigate that was tailing this Chinese task force had reported the live fire, quote, around the same time as the pilot of that Virgin plane.
At around the same time, there were two areas of notification. One was from the New Zealand vessels that were tailing.
Don't be fooled. The New Zealand frigate might have heard the Chinese warning at the same time as that plane, but it did not pass it on to us, which is the crucial point, until nearly an hour after the Virgin pilot's warning was passed on, as Admiral Johnson himself had already said.
I'm also concerned, I might say, to see reports, it seems, conflicting between the Chief of the Defence Force and the Prime Minister as to what is actually happening in our waters. The Prime Minister is scared and he's not up to his job. We know that. I don't know what the Prime Minister is doing at the moment, but he's ducking and weaving and failing to answer basic questions. And I hope that the Prime Minister can come out and give an honest account of what the government knew and when.
I mean, the mind just boggles. How could the Prime Minister be all over the shop about this most serious act of intimidation by China's military? Why did he go soft on it? And how prepared is our Navy when it's struggling to monitor just 3 Chinese ships that are here in an exercise? Imagine the chaos if China sent not 3 ships, but 30 to say, cut off all our shipping if it did go to war over Taiwan. What a shambles that'd be. What a shambles. And if we do not learn some lessons here, we are sitting ducks should China ever return.